Let's see. Oh, there we go. We are officially live. Okay, there we go. All right, so cool. We are here. We're here. We're here live. Another wonderful guest. Another wonderful night. I'm very excited to build with this good sister. And as you don't, if you don't know, of course, my name is Muzosa Onkat, aka Your Brozo. People like to shorten it. And Polka Dot Rabbit Podcast, we are here to uplift humanity. In addition, we are definitely here to assist in waking up the melanated zombies that have been walking off and been asleep for quite some time. And I'm glad to say they're starting to wake back up. And if you haven't already, please go up. You know what? I just took a. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. I didn't think I have it, but I do have it. If you would, go to polka.rabbitpodcast.com. Check out my book, Bicultural Leaving and Living the World of Illusions. A lot of people like to ask me why and how I'm why I'm diverse. That's the easiest way to put it. I'd say read the book. It'll give you the whole explanation of why I'm able to talk on different topics and different people, different races, whatever. You know what I mean? You gotta be you gotta be versatile in this world. You know what I mean? You gotta be able to connect to us human beings. You know what I mean? That are alive and trying to elevate and become better people. And that's one of the things I'm here to do. Enough of me. Now it's time for the good sister to tell her what she got going on her end, who she is, and please, sis, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate being here. Definitely, like, it's never enough to talk about helping to raise humanity's consciousness and cleaning up our frequency. So never feel bad for introducing that. Because I tell you one thing, being Mahatma Starseed in my space, owning my spirit, my authenticity, it's you know it's a road to really help you grow. It's not always easy, but it's definitely meant for us to show the worth. So thank you for allowing me to be here to share my craft, to share my authenticity, and to talk about the body and spirit. This is what I'm here for.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, we just started off really quick. Like, so could you like paint a picture of like, start back from the beginning, like your childhood? You know what I mean? Like what you had going on. Were you always the type of individual that you knew something more? So how was that like growing up?
I definitely knew when I was younger that I had a purpose to share the uniqueness of how I saw life.
Hmm.
And for a long time, I kept it to myself. I kept it in a bottle. I felt like it was so precious that it wasn't just something that I can just like share very early with the world until I really understood what it was that I was going to be sharing.
Hmm. Was it well? Did you have like a pretty normal childhood, or was it was it was it atypical type childhood? Where'd you grow up? Like where were you? Yeah, where'd you grow up?
I would say I had the typical American style dream. My parents are both from the different countries, Puerto Rican, Haitian background. My dad was in the Navy, so I was a Navy baby. And we definitely jumped around for the earlier parts of my life. So I have had a very simplistic lifestyle. However, it was consistent, but also, a lot of things caused me to have to like not have like a lot of attachments and having to feel free with
Mm,
restarting and feel free with being like the new person. So that was like basically like the
mm,
beginning of my life up
mm,
until about my pre adolescent years, before I became becoming a teenager. And then, it just, then it ended up to the other half of like that typical American life where I'm living in a split household and experiencing my parents and in a different light than I had never did before.
mhm. When you're saying like, what do you mean like the separate light, and what is that? What are you referring to?
Well, my parents split up when I was in my
Okay.
teenage years, and
Mm-hmm.
so I had the second part of my childhood was dealing with split parents. So I had two married parents
Got you.
for most of my early years, and then the second half, I experienced the recreation of a new world. My dad had moved on and got married, and he had more children. So being able
Mm-hmm.
to switch and understand the dynamic of a family, like what does it mean? How do you still be relevant was a big part of the beginning parts of me becoming an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. I can. So, all right. So you and how did that affect you? As far as you know, seeing that was it difficult? Was it something you were just kind of used to since you were kind of having to change often? Was that sort of
It was very difficult because, like I said, I had this
hold on a second.
let me see. Um, for me, marriage was a big thing that needed to that needed to be like changed for me. I wasn't really at a place where I was respecting marriage. I didn't know what the point of it was at that point. I was very angry,
Mm-hmm.
very confused. I was not a part of what was happening for my parents. I was very much in the dark, but I was seeing so much stuff,
Yeah.
and it definitely confused me. I ended up actually
Mm-hmm.
becoming a very young mother, I believe, out of it because I
Mm-hmm.
was just at a big rebellious place. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really able to live this life that I felt like, I always felt like I had a special vision to share the world. And at that point it was becoming very muddy for me. It was not in in front of me. It was not a vision of like where I was supposed to be. And I was getting very lost in that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, that coddled lifestyle of being, you know, American, having all of these
Yeah.
privilege, doing whatever I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do, my parents being split. So, the attention is not really there as prominent on a child because of that split, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So it was very tough. And then becoming a mom, it wasn't until like had my three kids and I'm raising my kids and I'm like, reflecting on my life and like how can I, help them to understand what's going on more,
Yeah.
regardless of what I got going on in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so, in going through all that, like, when did that all of that kind of subside, I guess you'd say, and then what was the next transition? Was it like you like going internally? Like, what was that transition?
Um, I would say it took the ending parts of my 20s
Mm-hmm.
for for me to start being able to really look at my life. I was already out of college. I was working in my career. At this time I have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and my kids were a little bit older at this point. I had a little bit more free time, and I was ready to like really just like see what it was to like take care of myself and get my body back into shape. So it was a
Mm-hmm.
good 10 years ago that I started kicking into gear of like, okay, what does it mean to be in my
Mm.
life, and not just being a mom,
Yeah.
not just being a spouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was. So you started, I guess, doing your own personal take obviously self-care, but also your I guess taking your internal inventory, I guess. And
Yeah.
so now this is a yeah, this is a you know so you got to that point. When was it that? because earlier you said you already knew you had a different perspective on things. So how did that connect level you being like, yo, I gotta help the world, you know what I'm saying? Like what was that transition look like?
Well, at this point, I was living, a regular life, you know, just the A's and the B's and the C's,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I was being myself, I was being myself. I was living my world. However, I was realizing that a lot of people were comfortable with putting me in a space to plan things. One of the things like
Mm-hmm.
my cousin said was like, "Oh, let's let her make the choice because she's going to consider everybody's energy. She's going to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that this is going to turn out the way we all want it to turn out." And I started really looking at that and really looking at like, how much more can I drive that skill? What would that look like if I put myself in a place where there were people that were looking to not just like have, connectivity in their leisure time, but also have connectivity in their business time. And I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
see, how can I step this up and really see what my abilities can do, and start sharing it. And I was coming from a place of being able to become more of a motivational speaker, being more directive with how I was sharing my energy, because I knew that the way that I was able to look at life was what was getting me to be able to swim through any current, any stream, any
Yeah.
byway.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that a lot of other people, they just have a really tunnel, narrow vision that someone else told them it was the best way to go, but they're having extreme difficulty to get down that river of thought.
I know. I have this conversation often because people will kind of try to give you advice or try to paint a a vision of how they feel about certain things, and they try to project it onto you, and you got to be like, no, I don't. You know what I'm saying? I see nothing like that. You know what I mean? Your experience has nothing to do with my experience. Your the way you feel about you know natural occurring things, be it life, be it death, be it any other things in life, just in general. That other people might say you have to feel this way, you have to feel this way. You can't tell me how to feel. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to feel how I'm going to feel. Then more than likely, if the more people are in tune, they're going to feel how hell of a lot different than you do. You know what I mean? So um quick here's another. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Kind of, sort of. Once you get you when did you start really taking it serious? Like, when did you start reading? Who were some of your, what did you just start doing self-study? Did you have any specific teachers that you really started to gravitate towards, in your studies? Like, how was your study time? You know what I'm saying? Your awakening when it came to on the scholarship side.
It, it's interesting you asked me that specific question because, like I was saying at the beginning, I had a very unique way of
Hmm.
looking at life. And
Hmm.
so I was very cautious of what literature I would dive into that
Hmm.
would create an impression and move it. And so, what really, the first thing that really linked me in there was because, I have a very high presence, I have a very high connection to the intuitive energies in this realm.
Hmm.
And so a lot of my guidance is like pure, universal, top spirit guides energy. And I'll never forget, I was just telling this story the other day because I help people to just like accept like where they're at and accept that,
Hmm.
there comes a point in your awakening where you do not really have a choice.
Hmm.
And so I, before I am here being in my spiritualness, I was going to become a CPA. This is the next step
Mm-hmm.
for an individual, if in the accounting world, is to, like, slap that CPA on the end of your name. And I was, doing the things to do that. And it's very extensive. It's just as extensive as your bar exam and things of that nature. And I'm in this 8-hour Saturday class on top of the 16 hours of studying that you have to do in the week. And I'm sitting here, I'm supposed to be listening to the lecturer, and all of a sudden, I'm channeling and I'm
Mm-hmm.
writing all of the things that I'm supposed to be breaking open. You know, the rights to live, as a community, uh, being in an effective marriage, being able to have, cognitive resonance with oneself.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not stop. Something in my mind was like, if you don't write these words down, they're not going to come again. They're not going to be here again. Now I know, like, that was a channeled message. But back then I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, what is this encryption? What is this happening to me? And the first people I shared it with was my family. And that
Mm-hmm.
really shifted my whole life. At that point in time, I was living a very, very different lifestyle. And that's what really started opening me up to my spiritual lifestyle. But I did not get there that quickly yet, because I'm just so adamant at helping people understand that there's always another way to get to things. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that, growing up, that, we have always been pushed on is, like, Jesus saved me. You know, religion
Mm-hmm.
saved me. If it wasn't for the Bible, blah blah blah. And so I was like, I'm just not gonna go that way. I'm gonna go like the most driest
Mm-hmm.
route ever. And I was like, before I even do and plunge into there, because remember, I'm not looking for any specific spiritual teacher. I'm looking for my universal teacher, because that's always what I listen
Mm. Yeah, I got
to. And
you. I'm
so,
with you.
right? And so I went to the library and I said, let me Google something. Like, what book can I read? Because at this point, I'm like, okay, I'll start ingesting something, but I needed to be, like, authentic. I needed to be rooted. And the pyramids at that time were, like, the biggest thing that a lot of people were, like, unknown about. And this is, like, before Google, before you could just type in anything and get a book.
Remember those days?
So a book popped up a collection of books of choices that was in my local library, and it ended up being called, um, 1491, the year before Christopher Columbus
Mm-hmm.
sailed, to America. And it was the history of, like, how America was before it became
Yeah.
what it was. And it helped me to get in touch with our land before
Yeah.
this programming set into our skin.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's where I started. So I started in the history of whatever it was, what right in front of me, and I looked to see what the land
Mm.
was telling me. So that was my first teacher.
That's beautiful because I know you said you listened to previous guest, and that's a big thing with me. I have to do my best to show us pre prehistoric information from a factual standpoint. I think that's one of the most, important things. Even along with the healing, even along with other stuff, we have to truly know. We have to do our best to paint a actual fact driven picture of how this place was before all of this, before this matrix was thrown upon us. And I'm so happy to talk about it because I have a conversation with a good brother earlier. I'm gonna have on. We were talking about the same exact thing. He's gonna have a whole presentation on it. But thank you very much. That is so important that you just bring that up. And even you might be the first person I've ever heard to really speak their spiritual journey from connecting it with the land. I think that's amazing. But also, it makes common sense because everything here that birthed everything is in the land. You know what I'm saying? So, and
Right.
we're the fruit of the land. Yeah, we're the fruit of the land, right? So makes perfect sense. That's very interesting though that you went from that angle. So yeah, move forward. So you got that book, and how did that keep on evolving from there?
Well, I when I got that book, I learned that we're not here to rush because it took me about a year to finish reading that book. It was a big book.
I can imagine.
And it took me on a journey of the life of holding a book. You don't know who's going to talk to you just from holding that
Hmm.
book. You don't know who's reading that
Hmm.
book. You don't know who's
Yeah.
reading what unless you got something in your hand for someone to say, "I love that book."
Hmm.
And from there, so many divine intervention things happened to me. But I would say what really took the cake for me was when I created and started Elite Motivation. Elite Motivation is not my first business venture. JDL
Hmm.
Enterprises is my baby, and
Hmm.
JDL is still there. I actually have it coming up in the outskirts the past 2 years, and it's like it's part of Elite Motivation, and Elite Motivation was birthed in 2016, and
Hmm.
I made a promise to myself that I was going to take this business, this project, this mission serious to the T, to where even in the creation of my business, I'm seeking to be the utmost authentic and to be able to apply attention to it when I desire, not when it's the most desirable for the outside perception.
Yeah, and that, as you know, that's so key because from the outside looking in, especially being an empath or whatever the case may be, you can see the people that are faking the funk on a nasty dunk. You know what I'm saying? You can see that the phony baloney's and it is so good because once you're authentic and real, then you can just be yourself. You know what I'm saying? And those true diligent inquirers, they'll come for you, for help. So that's a good thing. Just letting your light shine. You know what I mean, out there for everybody, to everybody to gravitate towards. So, got to give you props on that. You know what I'm saying? Because unfortunately, we do have a lot of unethical, people out here that's trying to, not trying to take take advantages, for monetary reasons, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to have ethics behind that. Some of my teachers now specifically were like, you got to keep it real because the universe will leg drop you off the top ropes. You know what I'm saying, for taking advantage of people. So
If not
kudos
now,
for that.
later.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Real talk. That's real talk. You know what I'm saying. So okay, so you got your information with the land. So like is it? I guess my question is because just looking at your information, is your thing mainly more so trying to get people to attach to self, to really find out who they are, as a individual, or is it more like expanded growth? Like, does it have multiple levels? Like, could you kind of like talk about the, I guess, the structure of building someone else that's trying to build?
Really, the ironic thing is, I went to when I started becoming Elite Motivation. I said I wanted, I know that we love credentials and stuff, so I started becoming a health coach, and it's what helps me to be me. It's that structure. And one of the things that I learned was the thought just like it came in my head and it's like trying to leave at the same time. Okay, it came. Okay, so one of the things that they do is they help you to just like envision. In school they teach you, what's your pitch, what's your elevator speech,
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm a body image coach. So I started off there, and ultimately I still am a body image coach, because how we view our body is going to create our image of ourselves and
Mm.
the image around us. And so we're
Mhm.
living in a body of
Mm.
oneness. We're in a body created from oneness. So that's why my main topic for definitely the next 12 months is just really driving in the understanding of, we need to have an image for our spirit just as much as we have an image for our body. And
Mm.
it's not just one image. It is the layers of ourselves creates that full image. And a lot of people are just building on the full image, and they're not going into the infrastructure of what is really embodying who they are, and taking themselves piece by piece. So it's really helping us to have those eyes for our body.
It's real interesting you say that because I remember speaking a while ago and we were just talking about ironically we were just talking about bodies and et cetera. And I was expressing to them, I was like, you know, your body is a representation of your mindset. You know what I mean? If you're structured in a certain way and your mind is in a progressive mindset that's trying to move forward, you're in your well, your spirit is like that, you know what I'm saying, then it's going to leak out to your body to be like, all right, we got to take care of this temple, we got to eat right, we got to exercise, you know what I'm saying, we got to get on it. But on the flip side, what I mean, it's kind of like if your mind is just undisciplined, it's just wandering, it's not focused, then more than likely that's how your physical body's going to be like, you know what I mean, unless you got you're real young, got really good metabolism, all that good stuff. But that's a different story. but but like that is so true. How it's all connected, and I don't know if a lot of people truly make that connection on that level. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And in order for us to be able to have that conversation, we got to get on your map, and we got to get you on your map, and we got to help you to understand where you're driving from, because a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
don't know what their map looks like and where they're driving
Mm-hmm.
from, because they're putting a standard map that everyone else is looking at from what everyone else was
Yeah,
looking at from a decade before. And it creates a misconstrued understanding, and that is a big reason why the
I agree.
community at large are riddled with dis-ease.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember I had to have in one of my conversations with myself, I had to tell myself that, you can't look at others and compare yourself to anybody else because we're all on our separate journeys. You know what I mean? When it comes to like when I'm saying compare anybody to comes to successes, especially on a material plane, you know what I mean? Because like you said earlier, this stuff takes time. You know what I'm saying? To become a diamond, it takes millions of years. You know what I'm saying? To become, under pressure. You know what I'm saying? To become that gem. And some of it takes time for us to become that gem. You know what I mean? And I think that's an important thing that people really got to realize. Like you said earlier, just like it took a time to write that book. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know what I mean? But as long as you're in the race, you know what I mean. As long as you're in the race, then that's a good thing. So let me ask you. This is an interesting question because I remember you said you had two different. We're dealing with. You had Haitian, and what was the other one that you said that was in your family? Your
Puerto Rican.
Puerto Rican. Okay. So were your parents, was it all like typical religion, or did you deal with like any Haitian voodoo or anything like that on either? Because well, I guess on the Haitian side, but on the other side, did they do anything with ancestral spirituality on the Puerto Rican side?
Well, my family came in for the American dream, and that's what they
Okay,
did.
that explains that. I
Everything
know.
else is like, it's interesting, you know what the American dream can do
Oof.
for a family, you know. And what I can say as being American born, there's so much to the American dream that can just be so much more colorful. So we gotta allow ourselves as Indigenous people to understand that we can live any dream that we want,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that's the point of being here.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's, just to easily sum it up, not it, just being a part of the matrix and not being a part of the matrix. You know what I mean? Like literally, because I think about that so many ways. Like, and I think about the indigenous aspect. I think about all the different things that I've learned throughout my years, as far as getting in touch with the indigenous aspect of it. How everything the matrix is the atypical. You can can equate it to the atypical American dream: the plastic, the metal, the materialism, the fakeness. You know what I'm saying? It's like, just go out and get a job, and then get a house with a white picket fence, and then get a retirement, die, and then hand it off. All that stuff. As opposed to really cultivating, your spirit and your body, and have the main focus. And I think about that often. Because how much I see it. You know what I
Right.
mean? And how it drives and it traps so many people, that and distracts people, in which they waste their whole life trying to run after this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then they didn't hardly learn anything about their real true journey. Of being here. You waste a lifetime chasing American dream, as opposed to finding out who you really are and being a part of this school. You know what I mean? The school of
Yeah.
life. And I say this. I've actually gone back in my disdain from all of this, but I was the more and more I became, quote unquote, self-aware, the more frustrated that I became about all the time that I wasted. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying. But on the flip side, I think about my growth as an individual, how it all was sectioned off in certain places of my evolution, in which it's like I had to be asleep for that long. You know what I mean? I had to wake up at a certain time, and had to keep on evolving and wake up at certain times, because my being has evolved at that point to be able to take on, that responsibility. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
all like, yeah, it's all in divine order. You know what I'm saying? So I had to I had to realize that as well. You know what I mean? You know. So do you this is let me I got okay. When did you realize that you had this gift, and what is the gift would you say that is? I mean, I know I could tell you're an empath, and what are the different things that you have, um that you just realized that you had through time, and through explanation, I guess.
I think one of the biggest things that I had to really accept, that like the prominent spiritual masters like shadow me. I really had to
Mhm.
accept that. I definitely in the last 2 years I really accepted it because
Mm.
I ended up having like a medium session. You know, mediums they have
Mhm.
the that special touch to talk in between,
Yeah.
and so they can see what kind of spirits are around you. And I'm like, okay, what
Mhm.
family's gonna show up for me? Everyone else is getting, your aunt and your grandmother, baba,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she comes to me and she's like, I see Jesus and some Indian master, and I'm like, wow, that's a way to put me on blast. Okay.
yeah.
And like at that point I had to really, really accept it. I always knew, I always felt like too many people are watching me after.
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm like, I
yeah,
just feel like I have a pressure on my back that I need to make sure that I am looking forward, because if I look back, I'm not going to want to look at what's looking at me,
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
in that journey, definitely in the last 2 years, I really penciled in and identified, what are my abilities and where are they coming from, and
yeah.
the anything that you can put ability next to is our abilities, you know. So for me, I have a sick vintage point, right?
Mhm.
I have a perception
Mhm.
that is very difficult to dirty, very
Yeah.
difficult to dirty. And
Mhm.
I feel like that's one of my biggest powers right now. And being able to transmute people's energy. So like I'm like a vacuum. If
Mhm.
I go into the area, I'm most likely cleaning your auric fields. I'm most likely relieving you of a lot of residual resistance. And if you continue to feel that, that's probably because you just put it right back on yourself.
Yeah.
Because a
Yeah.
lot of people just put stress back onto themselves.
That I mean that means you have. I'm assuming you have to do a lot of cleansing, huh? On your end.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because of that, I stay in the cleanse place. So I'm
Yeah.
really big. I'm an advocate at helping people cleanse their body,
Mhm.
understanding how to do it on a minimal point and on an extra large.
Yeah. 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 Because that's being open like that and taking on those energies, and I know that could be a very tough thing, especially when you're not able to really control it. That's just the easiest way to put it. Yeah. So like anything. Have you ever had any glimpses or anything like dealing with past lives and stuff like that? Is that anything that you connect with or deal with?
Uh, I kind of like embody all of my lives as much as I can.
Hmm.
So I am not a past life person. I don't really do that for people. I do have a bit
Hmm.
of mediumship abilities,
Oh,
but I do not practice them.
okay. Okay. All right. Okay, that's cool. So, go. This is interesting. You're saying about the Jesus and Indian thing. Like, is it what are some of the spirits that or guides? What are they? Are they from different type of what are the different main beings that walk along with you?
I have a very deep resonance with the Indian culture. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Lord Vishnu. I don't know if
Okay, sure.
you
Huh?
heard of
Yes.
them. Um, as well as the Aztecs and the Mayans. They're very
Okay.
big spirits that talk very
Mm-hmm.
loudly.
Yeah.
My Taino and my Creole background, they are there as well, but for whatever reason, they are not as prominent, which, it really leads me to believe, like, I think I kind of like intervened in this bloodline.
Yeah. That
I
makes
like
perfect
popped
sense. I'm with you.
yeah, yeah. I popped
Mm-hmm.
in. I definitely feel like a lot of my past lives are not from this realm, and so I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why I don't really dive into it. If that
I'm
makes
sorry.
sense.
You cut out. You cut. No, I'm sorry. You cut out. What did you say in the last thing?
I said I believe that a lot of my past lives are not from this realm, so I don't really tap in because it's
Oh,
different
okay. Okay.
consciousness.
Yeah. Okay. You think more so time frame or planetary when you say that?
Planets.
Planets. Yeah. 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 That's the thing that even though we were talking earlier about the land and that indigenous aspect, y'all people you have to realize that all of us aren't from the same star constellations. When we came here, even on our DNA, some of us might be come from Sirius, some of us from Pleiadians, you know what I'm saying? Somebody, and that all does factor into, the way that you know, incarnate here in your mission, but also your overall mindset and making the connection. So this ain't just a land thing. This is a star thing. You know what I mean? Hence the name your name Starseed. But yeah, this is it's way deeper than just the normal um way we just taught about religion. This stuff, the more we hit into this indigenous culture, etc., the more and more, once you go inside, you realize that, yeah, it's going to go right back out to the star systems. And, that's a good point as well with the land. You know what I'm saying? You got to come with the different planets as well. Any planets in general that 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 or galaxies, I should say that.
I have a big connection with Syrian energy as well as Palladian.
Okay.
Those
Okay.
are my two big spearheaders.
Mhm. That's heavy. I like that talk. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like the more and more you really realize that you've incarnated here, you're like, yo, where did I come from? And some of us, when we sit down in a dark night, we go outside, all we can do is look up at those beautiful constellations and be like, yep, that's home sweet home. Can't wait to get back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, because I used to walk around and like I used to like I would like my spiritual vessel, right? Because the body's vessel is like, oh, I'm used to this. This is what we do.
Yeah.
But my spiritual vessel was like, I don't know, like I feel like there's a life coming to me it just I'm not resonating with it supposed to be like that, and that's a big
Hmm.
reason why I was like, I feel like I have a whole different galaxy in my head to share with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've had
Yeah.
to spend
Yeah.
time to configure that.
So let me ask you this: like, what do you think about like what's happening today? It's the age of Aquarius, and all these younger, our these younger star seeds, these children are coming through the way the day and time we are in. What do you see like when you look at the world today? Besides all the craziness, I'm saying let's look deal with more so on the positive and the spiritual aspect of change. What do you see like today? Um, well, what are your what do you yeah what do you see when you look at the day and time we're in now?
uh, I feel like these starseed children are, they're vibrating into this world right now with a much more deeper resonance for their authentic lineage,
Hmm.
and uh, their their innate programming is literally programmed to like disconnect them from the
Hmm.
old way of being. So like they're not here to adhere to absolutely anything.
Hmm.
If you're not wake,
Hmm.
they not listening.
Yeah, yeah. And do you feel as though those are the warriors that are supposed to hear that here to help change it? You know what I'm saying? How do you look at that as far as them?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel like the the star seeds that older community that are here now are really
Hmm.
meant to lay the foundation for this new
Hmm.
earth that
Yeah.
the children will be able to walk on.
Hmm.
And if we do not be proactive and restructuring the way that they can walk forward, they will be lost.
Yeah.
And I definitely do not want to see what that's going to look like.
Yeah, yeah. One of the one in addition to going back, going back to what we were talking about earlier, the importance of the land. There's always a thing that I always promote as well, and culture. It's culture. You know what I mean? Because we have to in culture. We have to cultivate these new star seeds with the right knowledge. You know what I'm saying? We have to get them that information. That the culture that will guide them once they get here to be able to completely embrace their abilities and really be the best who they can be. And it is true, it's culture. You know what I'm saying? Culture is so important, that we need to get. I'm talking about, I ain't just talking about the old crazy culture that black people when they eating soul food and all that kind of stuff. That's a different type of culture. I'm talking about, and I talk about book as well. It's like when you look at somebody, I'll say something like, if you take an individual from the Nation of Islam, right, that's been raised up in a certain way of being respectful, praying, whatever the case may be, you can have a lot better outcome with an individual like that as opposed to just anywhere that this world teaches to try to be a good person. You know what I mean? So even if it's, any type of culture that's beneficial, it's good, for these new seeds to, to at least have some type of guidance to keep them, in on the right path. You know what I mean? That was just an example. It could be, you could, people have so many, how they are there, but any positive African-based, African spiritual system, you know what I'm saying? It's that's what I'm referring to. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, okay, there
Okay.
you go. You cut out again. I'm sorry. What you say?
My apologies. Can you repeat that last question?
Actually, I was just talking. I'm gonna go to the question now. I finished up what I was just saying. Um, so it's interesting because like you knew you had to help people. You know what I mean? What? But what were you just like? What made you just be to the point that's like, yo, this is it. I gotta help people. I gotta help people. Like, how did that look like?
Okay. So when I when I started my fitness journey and I was able to like really recondition like my behavior of eating, you know,
Hmm.
uh I was still working in like, the accounting world, and I had ended up working at this one job where they were looking to revamp the health and wellness community setting that they had there. And I was like, oh, I'll show up for this, because it's volunteer. And I was like, oh, I'll show up for this. And I went there, and they didn't really have any leader, and they were looking to have like a group discussion of like what would be the best thing to like, help people get more engaged and activated. And I just started spewing out all these ideas, and they were like, oh, you look like you should be the ringleader of this. And I was like, I just started this job like 3 days ago. Like, I just wanted to find out what this culture was about. I
Hmm.
don't think that that could be me, but that I started doing research into like what could a business really do to help encourage their community. And I started seeing like, people want to hear the information, and they want to hear it from someone that's really motivated. And
Hmm.
I began from there to see like how can I start helping people to become more in alignment with their everyday lives.
Ah.
And then I got a concussion
Ooh.
midway, and I'm still recuperating from it. I still would not say like, yeah, I'm back to being me. I'm always me. I
Hmm.
love me at every freaking level, just like I've loved me at every freaking size, because this is my body, and what the heck else am I here for but to love the image of what is coming in front of me.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean you don't get tired of like access to certain things and access to like convenience and stuff like that. And that's what really
Yeah.
moved us. And when
Hmm.
I fell into this concussion and I had to really redefine how I could live life,
Hmm.
because I had already became a health coach and experienced having mental clarity and
Yeah.
mental configuration, I was
Hmm.
able to help my body still have a life to experience. Because I firmly believe
Hmm.
if I did not have the skill set to empower myself effectively, correctly, right? Not
Hmm.
unjustly, not, overly. I'm not perfect, right? Sometimes I overdo it. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying I
Hmm.
have understanding of my capacity. And at
Yeah.
that point, I really understood, how really important it is to fill your spirit up. Like, we cannot just treat our spirit like, oh, you here anyways, you need to come on and get
Hmm.
going. This body needs to show up. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was the point when I was like, you know, I want to show up the way I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew at this point I had to come to terms with, if I'm ever going to grow, if I'm ever going to see that vision that I feel internally, innately, I need to put myself around a consistent stream of consciousness that would is willing to
Mm-hmm.
live that life, irregardless of the standard that's set in front of us. And I went
Mm-hmm.
on a 8 month world tour in the middle of the pandemic, and that's where I reconfigured my conversation. I reconfigured my awareness. I reconfigured how I was showing up for myself. And that's when I knew that this is how I want to help people, because I can't help absolutely no one until I can help them understand what the
Mm-hmm.
heck they are saying.
Yeah. Yeah. That's you sound like me because when when the two things. Yeah, I had a concussion too when I was in a karate tournament. I like years ago. And I went look. I went back to try to a week later, and I sat down. My hand was shaking. I didn't realize later on how torn up I was. And just like you were saying, I wasn't even right for. I wasn't right for a good 6 months. You know what I mean? At least. It could have been longer than that, but I was seeing stars and all that stuff. But that's one thing that I can relate with you with. But number two is when the pandemic happened, I was traveling too. I never really stopped. You know what I mean? I was gone. But where did where did you go on your world tour? I'm a traveler, so I'm interested. Like on your world tour.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I wouldn't change it for the world, and I highly suggest for everyone to travel
Hmm.
the land they live on,
Yeah.
because until you travel it, you don't know what you're living in.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially living in America, we really undervalue what we are living in. We are living in an American dream to where it's not the dream. No, no, no one's saying that, but it is a
Hmm.
dream to live in, because other people in other countries, they have to go through a lot of hoopla to go into
Hmm.
different countries, and we have at least 48 states that we can
Hmm.
drive through no problem.
That's
You
true.
know, we don't get stopped at the border. We don't have to,
Hmm.
get hawked up at the border because there's traffic.
Hmm.
And so we have the ability within a week, within 7 to 10 days, to see a whole nother stream of consciousness that's living
Hmm.
under the same sun, moon, and stars.
Very good point. Very good point. Yeah, I'm a high advocate. Like I talk about in my book, I'm a high advocate of traveling. Even in the states. You know what I'm saying? But across the whole globe, because that, me personally, my whole perspective in life, people really more so change like outside of the country. You know what I mean? Um, but inside the country, this is the native land. There's beauty here. That our folks are all over this place. You know what I'm saying? And that's I agree 100%. That's also important thing to do. Get out. You know what I'm saying? In Georgia, there's so many things that Georgia specifically, when I lived in Atlanta, there's so many native um, artifacts, mounds, all these different things that are straight 100%, like your Massey or Cherokee and all over the place that people just don't know of, but it's sitting there right in front of us. You know what I mean? Like, and unless you go check it out, you wouldn't even know it's there. You know. So let me can we kind of talk about like which your your coaching itself? Like, I know you talk about it. Like, what does it entail? Like, if somebody's watching right now and they say, this might be for you, what would you say to that individual? And also, kind of, if you have any type of events or anything that's coming up, could you kind of elaborate with that as well?
So my coaching is really geared to help an individual, like, create a goal and see it happen within a realistic amount of time. The
Hmm.
point of coaching is for not for me to come and say, hey, you needed me, you weren't going to get this goal done and complete without me. That is not the point of a coach. If you have someone giving you that feeling and sensation, walk away. Please walk
Hmm.
away. because you can do whatever the good Lord sets your foot to do. However, the question is
Mhm.
convenience, convenience,
Mhm.
convenience, convenience. How much are you willing to apply the
Yeah.
privilege of convenience in your life and putting someone in the docket of your life to help give you a perspective from a non-biased place is definitely necessary. It's definitely needed at this time and in the point
Mhm.
in our awakening where a lot of us have spent decades not knowing if we could share commentary with anyone. So the most important thing that you want to do right now as an individual is really seek out that credible mentor, that credible teacher, that credible guidance that is going to help you find your authentic footprint, because at the end of the day it's your goal that gets put in that paper, and it's your goal that's going to keep being brought up to you every week. And we're here to show that example as coaches, to help showing you in week 3, is this still the picture that you want? Week 12, is this still the picture that
Mhm.
you want? And if it is, are you closer to it? Are you making the reputable steps to really say that you can meet it in 6 months versus 12 months versus 3 years? Especially when some of us are looking to switch a position, and we want to be that top hitting individual. And uh, the realistic thing is, you you got to grow into your thousands. Okay, not run to
Yeah.
them. You got to grow
Mhm.
into your thousands, not run to
Yeah.
them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that's what I do. I help you grow into your thousands instead of running to
Okay.
them, and so that you can really be there and you can be present, and you're not at your success with anxiety. You're not at your success with depression. You're not at your success with leaving the most important people in your life. You're at
Mhm.
success with everything that was important to you before you were there gets to come with you if it's meant to while you're there. And
Yeah.
so that's how I do it. That my elite motivation is more that personal brand. I like to incorporate the holistic lifestyle. So I like to give everything that I have done in order for me to feel complete and whole. And so I help to show that same blueprint for yourself of what can we do to set up some measures to help you feel complete and whole. And that could be, that yogic, expression, because stretching the body is really important. So I help to
Mm.
apply curated content that is digestible for you today, and not like, oh, this is great information that I can do in 3 years. Like, no, we're going to give you value
Yeah.
today. We're going to help you use that value today. So that's elite motivation.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember earlier we were talking about the safe space enrollment. What exactly is that? That sounds real interesting.
So that's my community development section. That's the JDL Enterprises. I got my shirt on here. JDL Enterprise, and this is where I am curating the Royal Community Connection, um, and that's where I am housing all of the individuals that go through the safe space process. It's really the onboarding process to your remembrance. However, it has
Mm.
curated into being called the safe space. Those that have gone through it have just really expressed how much they have been able to identify with their own safe space, and really what that looks like, feels like, and sounds like.
Mhm.
So it's a 99-day commitment. It's set up for you to see how to honor yourself, and not just yourself in front of yourself, to also honor yourself in front of the community, because we're really not growing if we cannot lead that example out in front of others.
Mhm. Wow. Well, that I'm gonna keep on saying this to people that I see doing this work. Kudos to you, because the one good thing about what you're doing, and other individuals had on here, that they're healing and helping. Not only did they heal themselves, which might be the hardest thing in the world, but you know they're able to reach out and assist and help aid and heal others in this, in this era with, a lot of us dealt with so much trauma in our lives and, so much stuff. And once we're really ready to take you know take our own power back, we need individuals like you that can help guide us. You know what I'm saying? So kudos to you, sis. I appreciate what you're doing. I definitely support anything that you got going on to help these people. And any way that I can assist you with that as well. Just let me know, because yeah, we got to stick together. You know what I'm saying? That's Star Seeds got to stick together.
That's right.
So yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, but besides that, that's really all the questions I had for you. Anything else you wanted to, kind of talk about or build on?
I just really appreciate the space that you've created. I'm really excited to see more individuals that are out here opening up the space, seeing all the different individuals. It was one of the reasons why I was like, "Oh yes, let's tap in with this brother." Being able to see these kind of platforms is so necessary because we definitely need to get our voices out there, and I appreciate it. And I just wanted to like leave. I want to leave a little advice. I like to leave a little bit of empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
I have a podcast that's called EM Healing, and at the end, I always
Mm-hmm.
like to give advice because we want to keep ourselves empowered. So, what I
Mm-hmm.
can share with the community today is for us to be able to relieve stress in our lives. We can do it in moments, we can do it in seconds. But first, you must believe. You must believe you have the ability, and then you can move forward with the task. And the task that you can do, and you can do it before anything, it's free for you to do, is to give yourself 60 seconds of a breath before going into the store, before going to reprimand your child, before having that meeting. Take 60 seconds to breathe in life, prana, God, the creator, newness, life, and then continue forward and see what that can do for you in your day.
Beautifully said. And what a way to end it. Sis, it was a pleasure and an honor, what I'm having you on the Polka Dot Rabbit podcast. If I haven't already, please follow her, follow the Polka Dot Rabbit podcast. Please share and like this. It was, like I said again, it was an honor, and definitely hope to have you back on. You know what I mean? In the future, we can talk about some different things. So, I appreciate you, beloved sister, and until next time, peace.
Thank you. Thank you. Peace and light. Peace and light. Thank you, everyone.
Peace. All right.